Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Tuesday Takeaways. And today we have Dr. Lin with us here, who is, a traditional Chinese medicine expert, but beyond that, so many other things. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and everything that she does, because I'm not going to do it justice. So, Lin, please introduce yourself to our wonderful audience, and then we're going to take it from there.
Well, thank you so much, Eva, for having me here with your community. And I'm just so honored to be here today with all of you who are joining, who are going to be listening to this later on. Again, I'm an eternal student. I am always learning and adding things to my toolbox and just so fascinated with healing, wellness, and how to live as our most authentic, optimal selves using the principles of ancient Chinese medicine, principles rooted in nature. And so I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine and acupuncturist. My license is in that. Been deeply steeped in that. But really, my most fulfilling work comes from teaching Chinese medicine, teaching people about cyclical living, how to unblock our energy so we can feel more vital, feel more energized, feel more able to show up in our work. And I combine so many different things in Chinese medicine. I wouldn't say I'm much of a classical purist because I just include so much of different aspects of me into the work. So there's a lot of mindset rewriting. There's a lot of emotional wellness, emotional processing work in the in
Somatic work as well, as far as
lots
I
of somatic
saw,
work.
some life coaching,
Yes,
all of it. Like
all of
you
it,
are
therapy, all of it. So I really bring all of those tools here, um, in me through my own work with Return to Yin. So I'm so honored to be here to share more.
it's an honor for us, truly, to have you share all the wisdom with us. Guys, before we get started, let us know if you've tried anything from traditional Chinese medicine. I'm going to share some of the things that I've tried and I love as well.
Yeah.
But today we're going to be talking about those kind of ancient secrets to vitality, right? And unblocking our flow. And Dr. Lin has, what is it like a program and offer that's coming up that's all about unblocking your flow actually, right? So she's going to tell us
Mhm.
about that and what you're going to be doing for that because
Yeah.
my audience here is filled with entrepreneurs and a lot of them are solopreneurs, right? And so everything is kind of like on your back.
Right.
And with that, it's like, especially as women, right, as cyclical creatures, we
Mhm.
really understand, that we need to optimize our energy, right? And we need to work, in alignment with our energy flows and cycles, right? Human
Mhm.
design, one aspect of it is really about how our energy moves through us, how it gets activated, right? How it gets blocked, and all these things.
Yeah.
But beyond that, right, in our physical body, I would love to hear from you. Like, what are those kind of little things and secrets,
Yeah.
and ways that we can really like increase our vitality so that we can, not just be productive, but like really enjoy our day to day. And when we were chatting before in the DMs, like preparing for this live, we were talking about like maybe going through the day, from morning until evening. What are those things that
Yes.
we can do and how we can integrate everything that you do to like really flow
Mm.
without limit let me add like without like dropping a lot on our plate, right? Or disrupting our schedules like so much that we feel like, oh my god, not this is another thing that I need to do. It's like I'm just
Right.
overwhelmed already with a lot of things that I need to do. So
Yeah, when I first start bringing this to people, like when I have a client, I'm like, "I don't want this to be a chore for you."
hmm
I I don't want it to feel like another responsibility that adds to the plate of all of your other responsibilities. And I know what it's like to be a solo entrepreneur. I'm right there with you on that journey, and also deeply aligning to my energy, my cyclical rhythm to my business. And that's like a really big part of my work is to think about how can I honor my cyclical rhythm, honor where my body's at, to honor where my womb is at, what phase it's in, but also honor what I have to do in my life to like show up for my work and my clients and teaching. And so how do we find a bridge between our bodies and our needs, and also what we're here to do, the impact we're here to make. And my work is really about creating a bridge for that. And I love that you mentioned in the beginning the program that I'm beginning the Fire Horse year, which is coming up February 17th. We're entering into a new astrological year within the Chinese astrological framework. So we're moving from snake year to fire horse year, and it's a really big year for initiating our own missions, our projects, what we're here to make impact on. And so what I really sense, especially as an entrepreneur, is it's so easy to get burned out. It's so
Mhm.
easy to get overwhelmed, especially when you're doing all of the things, you're wearing multiple hats, you're going at like 100 miles per hour. You often prioritize those things of your business and your family before you actually prioritize self care. And I know this because I'm one of those people. And also, a lot of the people I work with are like, I come home and I don't have energy for myself. I come home and I feel like I can't receive rest, or I feel like I feel guilty when I rest. And so with return to yin, it's like adding small little drops of yin and restoration and ways to prioritize our bodies that doesn't feel so disruptive to our whole, daily schedules and things going on. And it's about finding more balance because in Chinese medicine, it really is about what is our own harmony in our life and what does that feel like, look like, and eat. That's so personal. When I talk a lot about balance and harmony, it's a personal journey for each person. What my harmony will look completely different from yours, Eva.
Yeah.
And what I also love that you do, and I'd be interested to dive in this with you, is with human design. Actually, human design was one of the first things that taught me how to manage energy well. It really taught me that, because I'm a manifesting generator, and I was like, "Oh, yeah. Yes, go manifesting generators."
Yeah.
I have so many hands in many pots, and I'm here to alchemize all of those things, and so how can I sustainably also be healthy?
Mhm.
So that way I can show up in my business and show up for my family and show up for myself in a way that feels nourished and that I'm not like just hanging on by thread and drinking coffee every day. So
Mhm.
it's part of it is reframing and connecting to the desire of wanting sustainability, wanting the longevity, because the burnout and the overwhelm is really truly exhausting. It's a really exhausting place to live from, to create from, to build from.
That's why I got into a little bit of, Chinese medicine and then like somatic practices, breath work, right? All these
Mhm.
things. And they were like
Yeah.
easy things to kind of sprinkle in. So,
Mhm.
for example, like, I start my day with some, first of all, like as I'm in the bathroom and doing things, like I'm lifting myself on the tippy toes, right? And then on my heels and like kind of getting that blood circulating in the legs. Like it's just like as I'm
Yeah.
brushing my teeth, I'm doing that, right? Or then I'm doing some, how do they call them? Lymphatic hops, like when you're just jumping, right? Like you're jumping a little bit and then kind of like does a little bit of lymphatic drainage, these kinds of things. But it also like wakes you up if you just do like
Mhm.
50 hops. I'm like, I can do 50 hops, right? And then
Mhm.
I'm like doing, that tapping
Tapping.
on the exactly,
Yep.
like I'm doing some tapping on the meridian points and all of that, and like kind of getting everything like the energy circulating, right? And then some,
Mhm.
light stretching and movements, sometimes like the five Tibetans, some kind of like qigong kind of type practices, right? All of that just to kind of like get myself rolling in the morning and get that energy up, right? And
Yes.
so those kinds of things. And then as I start working, I see where I'm at. If I'm like kind of energy low, I can do a breath work, like the breath of fire, and get that,
Mhm.
really activate myself, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
then later on throughout the day, like if I'm looking at the screen for a long time, and especially like after client sessions, right? Like, there's a lot going on. So I just do some alternate nostril breathing and reset my brain and kind of
Mm,
like ground myself, right? And do a
mhm,
little bit of like a somatic practice. So,
yeah,
those kinds of things, like I've learned to kind of incorporate and sprinkle in, and each of these things doesn't take more than 3 to 5 minutes,
yeah.
which is why I love it. It's like, yeah, sure, I'm adding something in, right? Like
Mhm,
adding to my plate. But
mhm,
actually, these things really boost my vitality or reset me and rebalance me. And as a
mhm,
manifesting generator that loves to just keep going, right? And I want to do so much.
yeah,
Like I've learned, like if I want to keep going, I got to find a way to reset, right? And if I
yeah,
want to do everything every day, then I got to find a way to get my energy up if it's low that day, right?
yeah,
Thus the breath work, right? And things like that. So
yeah.
give us your secrets.
Yeah, what I love what you're saying is you're getting in the state that
Mhm.
feels in that state of groundedness, centeredness, calm. And there's different tools that you use to get into that state. And so I love this. And let's just start off with talking about the TCM body clock. And so I
Mhm.
have it actually here. I have an example of it here. And if some of you don't know what this is, there is essentially a clock in Chinese medicine that we use and we look at that basically talks about how there's different organ systems that are activated at different times of the day. So when you wake up, typically, most people wake up around 5 a.m., between 5 a.m., 7 a.m., maybe even later than that. And during those times, you can look at which organs are activated during that time. And what I love is I love learning from the body's intelligence. I love learning from our body's natural rhythm and following our natural rhythm and then feeling somatically, does that feel good for me? Does that get me into that state of reset, grounded, calm, or excitement? And so during that time when we wake up is the time of the large intestine and the time of the stomach. And so what's really great during those times is a light movement like what you're doing. I often do qigong. I love the tapping because it kind of activates the meridians, it activates our energy, our life force, and
Mm.
gets us waking up. That also stimulates the growth of stem cells. So we're literally actually waking up ourselves by tapping on our meridians.
Mm.
And then some other things I love to do during this time is meditate. So during this time, our brain waves are actually still in the state of transitioning from that sleep state, right,
Yeah. The theta.
into more awakeness. So our subconscious mind is still sort of accessible during this time when we wake up. So I love doing a meditation. I love visualizing into um, what I want to feel from the day, what I want to accomplish in the day, and that really gets me in the state of I'm ready for the day, it gets me prepared for what I'm here to do. What I also love to do during this time is do like a tea ritual, something connected to really my slowing down because one of the things that we tend to do is we want to like jump into the day. And I think each person's different, but really listen to your body. But if we are jumping into the day and we're looking at our phones or we're looking at like the emails we have to do, I invite each one of us to find a ritual where we can just enter into that for even 5 minutes of let me just slow down. Let me feel where my feet are on the ground. Let me just take a moment with my tea and just be with that, or even be with my body. Place one hand on the heart, place one hand on another part. Maybe there's the shoulder that's feeling tense and just breathing into that place and bringing some attention there and noticing your breath. And just that alone, that awareness and that presence can be really, really supportive. So,
Yeah.
what I typically do is some qigong, I do a meditation, I do a tea ritual depending on how much time I really have. And another thing I do is a sort of a morning pages. Are you familiar with morning pages?
Yeah, from the artist's way, yeah.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I love morning pages. It's really this way to almost do a mental dump. on
Mhm.
in a journal. So take 3 pieces of paper and just really write out, something you dreamt about, something that's on your mind, something that you're gonna do in the day. And I love thinking about it in the analogy of you're turning on an old faucet, and that old faucet is releasing out sort of water that's stagnant, it's been there for a long time, it's maybe a little murky. And then as you continue to write and as you continue just to put things on paper and allow things to flow, allow energy to flow, then out comes that fresh, new energy, that new life force, that chi, that we can come into our day feeling more clear, more centered, because sort of all the mental chatter has gone somewhere. That energy has moved. So those are my practices.
Mhm.
And it always evolves because I think my life evolves, my schedule evolves, and my
Yeah.
energy as well. And so that's really the morning time. And also, it's a really great time of releasing. So, doing breath work in this time is really wonderful as well. And that energy of digestion goes all the way until like 11 a.m. So, having
Mhm.
breakfast during that time, receiving nourishment during that time is a really big thing too to get us
Yeah.
started. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love how you shared about that kind of tea ritual. That's something that I also, really kind of switched over to, which is going
Mhm.
from coffee to tea. I love black tea.
Uh-huh.
Because I learned that, basically coffee puts, our body in kind of like more masculine energy, right? Like
Right.
raises the cortisol, right? And it really puts us in that state, right? Of course, this is not maybe available for everyone because, we get addicted to coffee and then, you have your headaches if you don't have your coffee and all those things, right? So depending
Mhm.
on, I wasn't always a big, coffee drinker. So it was easy for me to kind of transition into black tea, for example. But regardless of like what we're drinking, and I was literally speaking about this in one of my blogs the other day, which was these creativity rituals and how to actually put
Mm.
yourself in the creative state. And one of the things that I do, first of all, is that breath work. And it's like 5 minutes, right? 5 or 15 minutes, however much I want, right?
Mhm.
But it can be like a 5 minute just grounding breath work ritual. And it's fascinating how 5 minutes in breath work is a long time, actually. And it
Yeah.
actually does a lot to, either ground you or activate you, right? But in this
Mhm.
case, we want to really reset the nervous system and set it into that, homeostasis and that like rest and digest, like that ideal state
Mhm. Mhm.
from which we can only truly be creative because creativity cannot exist in survival mode in a
Mhm.
dysregulated nervous system, right? When there's fight or flight, a part of our brain just shuts down, right? And so if
Right.
you're like, you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my God, I got to answer these emails, I got to do this. And you're thinking about your to do list and you're already buzzing. Right.
Mm.
And rushing. And so many people are used to kind of like rushing and feeling that pressure if you
Right.
start your day with that, you immediately put your nervous system in a dysregulated state
Yeah.
from which you cannot truly be creative, which is why a lot of us also love to create in the evening instead of the morning. The morning is
Yeah.
more like to-do list and client work and things like that. And in the evening, it's like, okay, let's sit down and write, and
Mm.
express ourselves and things like that. Right. So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
love doing that breath work. And I love, as you said, about the tea,
Mhm.
having those, like I call it kind of like pleasure stacking, right? And I'm
Mm.
all about being pleasure led and pleasure stalking. And you and
Yeah.
I both know that like the female nervous system is regulated through oxytocin, right? And it's all about pleasure. It's all about hugs. It's all about love, right? And
Mhm.
coziness, right? And that's what our
Mhm.
nervous system like loves and how it relaxes. And
Mhm.
so I've infused my workspace with pleasure from so I start my day with like, okay, that warm drink, and I'm holding it and I'm just being present with it and feeling that warmth, and then I'm drinking it and I'm feeling the warmth
Mm.
inside, like inside
Yeah.
of me, and I'm grounding myself and I'm relaxing myself, reminding myself of like, okay, no matter how much I have to do, it's always better if I do it like this than like this, right?
Mhm.
And so like, okay, let's ground ourselves and be like a queen on the throne and
Yes.
then go after the things,
I
and
love
then I and then I light a candle, I always light that candle, right? And so there's a aroma going on over there, and there's that flame that is kind of accompanying me as I do things, right? And
Mhm.
before I get started, I literally take like 5 seconds to just be like, okay, I'm gonna approach this from a calm and centered energy, right? And
Yeah.
then I go and do things. And then I have my, cozy blanket or, whatever. And maybe I switch over to like doing things from my bed or from my sofa or whatever feels
Mhm.
comfortable that day. And that's why that kind of like tuning in somatically, right? Tuning into our body and like, what do you want today? What feels good and what doesn't is
Yes.
so important, right? First
Yeah.
of all, having that connection to the body is not what
Yeah.
all of us have automatically. And it might be a relationship to build because of maybe previous trauma that disconnected us from our body, so that's where, again, like you said, everything is personal, right? But having those pleasure rituals, right, and making sure that you come at your day from a grounded, kind of place instead of
Mhm.
a frantic, okay, I gotta do this, gotta do that, right, and rushing
Mhm.
through it. The time it takes to do things is the same,
Yeah.
but the energy from which you're doing it makes it feel like you're doing it in a slower way, even though you're doing it the same speed. But it's
Mhm.
just the groundedness makes things feel like they're really nicely paced.
Yeah. Well, I love so much of what you said there and the pleasure rituals, and I wanna get to that. But something wants to come through here about the coffee and how, we learned in Chinese medicine that coffee is actually like fake kidney energy. And so
Mhm.
when you drink coffee, you're drinking it early in the morning and it's spiking more cortisol. We
Right.
actually naturally have a cortisol spike when we wake up, and that's what actually gets us to wake up out of bed. We have cortisol, and that sort of spike gets us to go with daylight. So, daylight, the sunlight, actually helps to stimulate that within ourselves. So, it's important to note that if you do have that cortisol spike, to move that energy through the breath work, through some sort of gentle movement, and also feeling into, what feels good, what feels like natural for you to do in this moment. One of my clients is like, I think I do best when I work out in the morning. And I'm
Mhm.
like, follow that. Like, follow your impulse because that's what your body is like. That's your personal rhythm.
Yeah.
And so, how can we match our own personal rhythms with our own collective rhythm that's happening? The daylight, nighttime. And
Mhm.
so I thought there's that piece is if coffee feels like it's activating for you, if it feels like it's a little ungrounding for you, pay attention to those things. And then start to bring in some discernment with, okay, in the morning, like having coffee is not supportive. So maybe it's cacao. I love drinking cacao. Cacao is one of my favorite medicines, one of my favorite herbs, one of my favorite things to drink because it immediately gets me and drops me into my heart. That allows me to be in that state, in my heart state all day, essentially.
Yeah.
It just really is such a nourishing medicine to sit with.
Yeah.
And you said something about pleasure. I mean, that has so much to do with pleasure as well. Is like, how can we get in our hearts? And one of the things that I find often, I remind people like, when you're coming home from the day, like, how can you turn on the rituals that tell your body because we learn through our environment. Like, we are a part of our environment. So if you can lower the amount of lights that you have, turn on some candles, turn on your favorite music, like, really get the vibe of your place to be shifting as you shift more into yin, more rest, more decompressing. That's just going to allow you to receive. It's like when you have a garden, you, like, plow and you get, like, the soil ready. It's like you're doing that to allow yourself to begin to receive, and
Yeah.
one of the biggest things I hear from people is, like, "It's so difficult for me to receive." It's so difficult, especially as, like, business owners and entrepreneurs, mothers, like, women, people who are just natural givers. It's not designed for us to be receiving. We've been kind of taught to be in
Yes.
the constant giving, be in the constant hustle, to prove our worth through producing, through
Mhm.
doing all these things. And so I find that people have this desire to like slow down and rest and pause and take care of themselves. But then that conflicts with this actual behavior of like constantly going and being in the hustle
Yeah,
mode.
the
And it's
conditioning, yeah.
right. And so how do we make a little bit more space for the desire to receive so we can receive pleasure? Because I know that sometimes we might sit on our couch and be like, the thoughts that come up, like, I should be doing something. What's next? Like, I feel you start getting anxiety because you need, there's that discrepancy between actually resting and feeling like you deserve to rest. And if
Mm,
you're all watching here, you all deserve to feel restful, to receive that, to receive the pleasure, because pleasure gets us to open up even more of our hearts, to open up more of our creativity, and to just enjoy life. I mean, the thing is we have to ask ourselves, I mean, I have to ask myself sometimes, it's like, what is my business for? My business is to allow me to align to my lifestyle. I'm designing it to align to how I want to feel. And so if I'm doing it in a way that's like pushing me and I'm burning out or I'm overwhelmed, I'm actually not aligning to what my values are. And so
exactly.
I have to be really mindful of that, especially as a solo entrepreneur of like, yes, I want this to be sustainable for my business, but also for mostly, most importantly, for my own body, for my health. That is the greatest wealth is really our health.
Exactly.
So yes.
Exactly, and that's why we start our business, like, we all wanna get out of the 9 to 5, the corporate, the capitalism, and all of it, right? And we
Yeah.
wanna do something meaningful. I mean, my audience here is because, like, we are in business not because we wanna make money exclusively, but because we wanna make an impact. Like, we have had our
Right.
own transformations, our own healings, right? Big shifts and
Mhm.
all of these things, and we're like, if the other people had this, if they knew about this solution, right? Their
Mhm.
lives would be changed and it will create a beautiful ripple effect, right, in the world. So, like, we are people on a mission, but
Yes.
we're also doing it for ourselves because we want to have a specific lifestyle.
Mhm.
And this is like the kind of like the little incongruence because we're like, oh, I'm doing this business to create this lifestyle, but then we're going about it in a completely misaligned way. It's like
Yeah.
you can't create a life of ease, peace, and pleasure through hustle and kind of pressure and all of that. So
Yeah.
like you gotta align, exactly what you want to receive with how you're going about getting it, right?
Right.
And so we need to align, as you said, like everything that we're doing, right, with,
Mhm.
that lifestyle that we want to create. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, there was something else that I wanted, but
Yeah.
kind of left.
Maybe this is a good time to transition even into back to the body clock, because after sort of 9 to 11 a.m., after that morning time, we do our morning rituals, we get some movement, we nourish ourselves with breakfast, we drink our teas, we do our things. Um, this is also a really good time between 9 and 11 for concentration, for deep focus. So I've created this cyclical day planner that's has the TCM, so the Chinese medicine body clock, but then also has the brain waves that are activated during that time. So how we can align to the natural state of our body during these times is like the way we can move with that life flow that's happening within us and around us. So during that 9 to 11 a.m. is the gamma wave time, which is great for concentration, writing, doing our deep work. Um, all the way until 11 to 1 p.m. is the heart time. So our heart organ, our heart energy is the most activated during that time. And so it's a really great time to connect, to have meetings, to do lives, to be showing up, to be sharing your mission from your heart. All of those things are really wonderful things to do and during those times and to align with your body's energy. And so I really like using that body clock with the brain waves to design my days
Mm.
because it feels right. I'm moving with my own rhythm in that. And during that fire time is also a time where there's a lot of digestion happening, there's a lot of circulation happening. So getting a workout during this time is really, really conducive to optimal flow as well, optimal health. And so what I could do is I can share this cyclical day planner with you and your community to use as a resource to design your days. And it really is connected to Chinese medicine and how to think about what are the organs doing and how can I align my actions to the functions of the organs? Because
We
when we're in alignment, Chinese medicine says, then we are in good health. And I think that's different for each person. However, that's going to show up is different for each person. So again, it comes back to the somatic sense of what feels good. Like for me, 1 to 3 p.m., which is the small intestine time, it's a fire element organ, so it's very much connected to the heart. The small intestine is known to release and to clear out, but it's also a place where we absorb nutrients. Biologically, we're reabsorbing nutrients in this place. So during that 1 to 3 p.m. time is a good time for integration to look over like your schedule and look over the things you did that day and say, what else is left? What else like was really helpful and productive, but what else needs to, what needs to be released, could be done another day, or what can just really just be let go and released. And I find that actually being in having our rituals of integration and release is actually equally important to the nourishment. Like the breath work. We can't have the inhale without the exhale. We need to be
Yeah.
having that constant flow of energy,
Yeah.
that constant like movement in order to
Yeah.
continue to receive and then share. And that cycle helps us show up better as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, helps us show up better for our families when we're not carrying that home with us, different things. Me as a practitioner, I'm very, very conscious of my energy and clearing my energy before each client, clearing my energy before each time I sit down and write and do my creative rituals. And so that small intestine time is a good time to do that release practice. I often take naps during that time. Like
Mhm.
if I can take like a 20-minute nap or a 5-minute nap, I will do it. I will shut my eyes and do it because looking at our screens all day actually taxes our blood and our chi.
Mhm.
And it makes us feel really tired when we're looking at screens and we're really focusing
Yeah.
a lot. So how often do you get a chance to really just shut your eyes and take a few breaths and be in that releasing practice,
Yeah.
whether it's as simple as washing your hands and just saying I release, the meeting that I just took and I clear it,
Yeah.
you know, and being in that, developing what those rituals might look like for you and what feels good for you, I think is the most
Mhm.
important thing.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
I'd
my,
love to
so
hear
many thoughts, so many thoughts,
it.
so many things that I wanted to connect to. But as you said, like that time, between like what was it, 1 and 3 p.m. Like, yeah, I love
Right.
to have my lunch at that time. And then afterwards, it's like, of course, I don't want to be doing anything. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna, go and review the rest of the day, what I got done, what I have to do, etc. Right. And so just kind of like unwind. Um, talking about kind of releasing rituals and things like that, I'm smirking the entire time because
Yeah.
one of the things that I really believe in is self pleasure. And
Mhm.
self pleasure has been one of the incredibly powerful practices that it sounds kind of like, what are you talking about? But actually, it has been one of the most powerful practices that I have used, along with, the bigger techniques like EFT tapping and neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis and breath work and all of these, like, let's call them more elaborate tools, right?
Right.
Self pleasure seems like just self-pleasure. But
Mhm.
actually, I even have a blog about this. And oh yeah, by the way, guys, in the blog after we finish this live, both Lynn and I are going to be publishing this live as a blog, so you're going to be able to find the clock, right, the TCM clock, right under the blog. So don't worry. So just tune back in, and or if you're just watching a replay, just go down and grab that link. But self pleasure has been incredible because, first of all, on a nervous system level, it relaxes the nervous system, right? And there's a huge chemical release in the body, right? And so, with that, it is incredible for releasing tension, right? And pent up tension. So doing a midday self pleasure session has been an incredible thing. I don't
Mhm.
do it all the time. I do it every day, but like sometimes it's like, yeah, I feel like, I'm at that time in my cycle, right? Where I
Mhm.
feel like, more activated in that way and I want to release some energy that way. So that has been, incredible. Like you can feel a direct shift in your energy and how you get grounded, how you
Mhm.
get like how you release anxiety, for example, and overthinking and drop into your body, right? By
Right.
reconnecting with it. The other thing has been really the fact that it is an incredible de-shaming practice. Because if you are just kind of shy or embarrassed to even think about self-pleasure, doing it will absolutely transform your entire life. It will transform your self-concept. It will transform your mindset. It will help you go through de-shaming, and shame is one of the biggest dysregulators and blocks, especially for women, right?
Mhm.
Fear, shame, and anger are the three biggest blocks. Everything else kind of stems from it and kind of branches out from it, right? But if you can release shame, you will increase your visibility, you will increase your audacity, right? Like as an entrepreneur, that there is no more powerful thing to do than de-shame and de-fear, right? And also like anger is a different thing because anger is an emotion that when you transform it, it actually activates you a lot. And anger is such an empowering emotion. It is absolutely
Mhm.
incredible to work with anger, but we're going to talk about that a whole another time. But
Mhm.
let's focus on this and just doing that self-pleasure, even as a
Yeah.
midday practice, has
Mhm.
been absolutely incredible for both the nervous system to get me grounded, get me out of the mind into the body, and at the same time, do that de-shaming. And I, first of all, I did hold a lot of shame around that, right?
Mhm.
But I was kind of, intent on pushing through that and being like, no, what am I embarrassed of? Do I feel like,
Mhm.
God is watching me as I do it or whatever it is? And like,
Mhm.
let's kind of break through those things, right? And those beliefs and call them out as lies that they
Mhm.
are, right? And shifting our mindset. So that has been, a huge, huge thing
I
for
just wanna
me
say
as well.
thank you for naming that because
Hmm.
this is I mean, really my work is rooted in breaking down the patriarchy, It's like breaking down these ways that these systems of oppressions that have marginalized and told us to be in a box and told us that we should be shamed because we have sexual desires and we self-pleasure and all the things, and we deserve to receive pleasure.
Absolutely.
And this system
Yes.
is not built for that, is not built for us to have that, to want that. And so, I just wanna celebrate you in that because I can see also if during that midday time is like the fire element time, it's the heart time, and I can imagine how incredibly heart opening that is, like, de-armoring so much of that kind of shame and guilt that holds us back, not only in ourselves and our confidence and our vitality, but also in our business and, like, how we show up in the world, so I
Yeah.
just really celebrate you in that because it's
Thank
powerful
you.
medicine.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
that also to kind of like touch upon the receiving that you mentioned before that I wanted to talk about, and then it kind of slipped my mind. But it is
Mhm.
so powerful, and as you said, so many people don't know how to just receive and how to,
Yeah.
rest, right? And this is huge. I think this is a huge, huge part of our conversation and a huge part of the problem why people burn out, and especially women, right?
Yeah.
So the issue is that, as you and I know. everyone is in the masculine energy. Survival, like the survival energy, the survival state, which we are all mostly in, and the conditioning that we have received from the world, from the patriarchy, has put us in the masculine energy. And then we have also been modeled masculine ways of success, right?
Mhm.
Get up at 5 a.m., do the things, hustle, bam, bam, bam. So this
The
is
40-hour
basically
work week. Yes.
exactly, and,
Yeah.
like, it's operating on a 24-hour, male hormonal cycle, right, which is absolutely different than the
Yeah.
female cycle, right? So we do not operate the same way as men do, and so we need to
Mhm.
shift things around first and foremost over there. So first, like, that is the big thing, like, moving from the masculine energy into the feminine.
Right.
It's still a task for me, right? It's still a deconditioning, a liberation for me, especially
Yeah.
as someone who has had PTSD. I've lived through two wars in my life, a hyperinflation, losing my father. It's incredible,
Mhm.
right? And the amount of survival energy stuck in my nervous system is
Mhm.
huge and has put me in the masculine state, which is
Yeah.
the masculine energy and way of being is all about predictability, control, like output, like doing,
Mhm.
doing, doing. And so the way that I've kind of allowed myself to relax, to rest, to receive, to enter that feminine energy of receiving.
Mhm.
One was, self pleasure, but the other things was really somatic work, right? And very simple somatic work, right? Well, basically, breath work has been huge.
Right.
The the practice that really transformed a lot for me was whenever I would feel, like, oh, I got to do something, or I should be working, I should get up, or whatever it is, I would just like take a moment, connect to my body, and be like, is this true? Or can I
Mhm.
actually relax for these half an hour? And if I do relax, let me like ease my mind, my rational masculine side, right? And be
Mhm.
like, okay, we're going to take this hour. And then after that, we're going to boom, 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 boom. Are you
Right.
okay now? Can you relax now? Oh, yeah, I can. I can see the plan. So I'll let you relax now, right?
Yeah.
And so that's another thing that I've learned along the way is that for me, it's like, sorry, especially it's like I have a very logical mind, right? Very rational mind. And so I need to give it proof. I need to kind of give it reasoning for things. So
Mhm.
with that, like talking about, pleasure and receiving and rest, it's like I needed to find the proof that resting and receiving and self pleasure was scientifically proven to improve things. So it's
Mhm.
like, hey, if I actually rest, if I actually do this breath work, if I actually take this power nap, if I actually self pleasure right now, what is
Mhm.
happening in my nervous system is it's exiting the fight or flight, it's entering a rest and digest state from which all of my brain is turned on. And
Mhm.
from there, creativity actually shows up, true
Right.
creativity, right? And also better decision making. So it's like I literally convinced my brain that rest is better than pushing through, right? It like sometimes we need that proof in order to really relax into doing something, right? It's not
Mhm.
like just like, oh, it's gonna be good for you. Sure. It doesn't feel like it's gonna be good. It feels like I'm gonna be slowing down. It feels like I'm gonna be losing momentum. It feels
Mhm.
dangerous. And that's the thing about being in that masculine state in survival mode is that like to
Yeah.
me, the feminine energy of flow, receiving, like not putting things out, but just like being in receiving mode, let's even
Yeah.
say manifesting, it feels dangerous. It feels
Mhm.
unpredictable, right? And
Right.
unpredictability feels like everything is going to fall apart and I'm going to lose everything and I'm going to have to rebuild everything. And I'm like tired of
Mm.
rebuilding, right? My life and everything. So,
Right.
the proof needs to be there, and that's why we're having these conversations and sharing
Yeah.
these things so that,
Yeah.
we can give that science behind, all
Right.
the great advice, right? So
Yeah. Well, I love so much of what you shared about this sort of what I call it hyper masculine, hyper yang. In Chinese medicine, we use a lot of the energetics of yin and yang. Yin being the nighttime, it being the rest, it being the slowness, yang being the fast, being the masculine, the sunlight, the energy that gets us to take action. And what I want to just say here is may we honor, the adaptations that we hold, that we have learned from being in the systems that that are and that are often not designed to be supportive to um, a menstruating body, but also to honor that, it even started way before us in our ancestry and also what our ancestors have gone through. And so when we're actually talking about liberation here and liberating ourselves, we're not only doing it for ourselves, but we're doing it for all of the other people before us. And I
And
totally,
around us,
yes, and around us, our families and our communities and the
being
people
that
who,
example. Yeah.
yes. And so I love that it's important, and it's difficult work. I mean, I just want to honor each person who's like really facing this and looking at the deconditioning and the liberation of themselves from this structure of the masculine. And I think there's two things here. There's, of course, my work that calls people back into restoration, that calls people back into yin. How can we realign to our own cycles, our own inner rhythms? And how can we feel really good in that and feel really pleasureful so that way we can show up in our business and show up in our work and do what we want to do. And at the same time, there's another piece here because yin and yang are interconnected. So if hyper yang or hyper masculine is present, then we are going to naturally have a yin. The yin energy is deficient. So we need to return back to pleasure, return back to receiving, getting ourselves to receive, and building in those small ways of receiving throughout our days. 5 minutes of I'm just going to shut my eyes. I'm going to self pleasure. I'm going to buy myself flowers and I'm going to put it next to my desk, and that's going to inspire me in my work. There's these little different ways that we can include different enjoyment and pleasures. For me, it's food. Like, I center a lot of my pleasure around food and just like, oh, I get to have like a meal and luxuriate in that. But, there's that piece. But then there's this other piece of hyper yang that our nervous systems hold. Our tissues hold this energy of hyper yang. And what I'm learning is this very Taoist way of approaching our nervous system, that actually we don't respond well to force. It responds well to just presence and acceptance
Mhm.
and just embracing what's there, just naming what's there. Like, even naming and saying, you know what? I have been very hyper young for a lot of my life. That alone is powerful because you're naming it, and you're creating acceptance around what's there. And then that acceptance then builds even more openness for shifting, for change to happen in your system, for you to just gently open up and be curious to, well, why have I been in that survival energy for a long time? And then that kind of is a thread that you pull and takes you to many different avenues. But I think part of the healing here for the collective and the society and culture, hyper yang, is meeting hyper yang. Like, why is it there? Can we hold it with compassion and curiosity and realize that hyper yang being in that hustle mode is not supportive and conducive long term. It's not a sustainable way of living after a while, and I'm sure many of us know that from feeling burnt out or overwhelmed in our business. It's because we've pushed and pushed and pushed. But really, what I'm feeling is we're being called towards another way. We're being called towards, how can I move more cyclically through my day? So I'm going to be providing the cyclical day planner, and literally it's a circle. So I always recommend people to like upload this to like a writing pad or to even draw it out, because it's a circle. And imagine it's not a calendar, it's not like a linear thing that you're filling out your day, but it's actually a circle that shows you that you're going to come back to the spot that you were at in the morning tomorrow. and that there is this process of beginning and ending, and it's not just this constant going. It's the circle of returning. And I think as we shift our structures, as we shift our systems, I believe that we're going to move even closer to returning to yin, finding that balance between yin and yang. What's really coming to me these days is like, how can we build structures and systems, especially in our businesses, so that way it can feel more feminine, so we can feel more like we can flow in those systems. And I'm sure you have lots to say on this too, in terms of like systems that support a business so we can be more in our feminine. I'm curious about what you think about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that, and the thing is that, like, as you said, like, being aware, right, of the masculine energy, I feel like that's, what I was talking about before, like, I understand where what my masculine energy wants, right, or what the part of
Mhm,
me that wants safety is looking for through that masculine energy, right, and so that's why I reassured my mind, like, "Oh, this is gonna be safe," right, and it's actually gonna be more productive if you take that rest, right?
mhm.
And so kind of meeting that need for the masculine energy and kind of satisfying it, but in a new
Yes.
way, right?
Mhm,
And that's what I found along the way throughout, the inner alchemy, right? And the inner shift and the shifts and the work that I've been doing for a decade now is truly that. It's like the way out is through.
mhm,
And as you actually acknowledge, like I acknowledge this part of me, which is ashamed, which is scared, which is whatever, and then speak to it as like, why? And what do you
mhm,
need? Right?
mhm,
Why are you going after this? Okay. And can we now go after that, but in a new way, from a
mhm,
different
mhm.
angle, a different approach? Right. And so to kind of just finish that conversation there, but when it comes to the structure, there's another thing that I've also found is that like I work with a lot of people, a lot of women who have been burnt out before, and then they kind of move into more, I don't know if I can, I mean, let's call it like more feminine energy, right? More yin, right? And they're like, I don't want structure. I don't want schedules, like all of these things that kind of remotely remind me of the things that burnt me out. It's like, it's a big
Mhm,
no no, right? And so they go into the whole other extreme, right? And then they have no structure and everything is overwhelming and everything is chaotic. It's like too much feminine, right? The chaos, the flow, the surrender without any structure, nothing, right?
mhm,
So it can be like a whole world of extremes, right? But truly, like business requires like a true balance, right? And understanding which energy to apply where. And this is where, in order to truly be in that beautiful feminine energy of receiving, manifesting through receiving, our magnetism, pure creativity, life flow, right? It's like you're moving through the day with ease, peace, and pleasure. Like if you
mhm.
want that, you have to do the work on implementing the masculine systems,
Yes.
right? You can't like if I told you, imagine tomorrow that you got 100 people applying to work with you, would you feel overwhelmed or would you feel excited? Well, if you would feel overwhelmed, which is probably going to be the answer, why?
Mhm,
Well, because you now have to have 100 conversation. How do you communicate what you do? Share the offer. Do you have a sales page? Right? Do you
mhm,
have maybe a resource that you can share with each of these people that explains what you do, what your method is, that gives them the testimonials, like all of these things, right?
mhm.
Whatever it is, right? You need to know how whatever it is that you want to achieve, you need to know what is going to support the achievement of that, right? And
Yeah.
so let's put in those systems, right?
Mhm,
Even
mhm.
for the creativity, for like you got to create that content and content creation, like it was the bane of my existence despite me doing what I do. Like first of all, I'm an architect. I finished architecture. I'm not trained in marketing and branding and all that. It was my personal transition, but it was very hard without
Mhm,
systems. And
mhm.
once I figured out my own system, my own flow, like how do I create, right?
Right.
It was a journey, and I wish that I
Mhm,
knew what I know now, right? And it's a blend of how do I put myself in the creative state? Okay. Right, and I have my rituals for that. That's kinda like the masculine side, like, "Oh, I know I'm gonna do my breath work. I know I'm gonna, like, tap in. I know how I'm gonna approach it," right? And then I have the other, system of, like, taking things from my journal into my content, right? Like, what has
Mhm,
happened in my day, the client conversations, or whatever it is, and how I turn that into effective content types that actually lead to results, right?
mhm.
And so it's all about basically having those masculine systems that support me actually releasing and letting go so that I can be in that feminine, knowing that this is carrying me, right? The
Mhm.
masculine comes there as that foundation upon the which the feminine can just dance around and play around,
Right.
right?
Yes, yes, yes. I love it. What I'm hearing is there's also a container, it creates a container. I often ask my clients sometimes, I'm like, you schedule your meetings, right? You schedule your business, your meetings, your strategy meetings, all the things. Do you schedule your self care? Do you schedule that self pleasure ritual that you w- wanted to do? They're like, no, I don't do that. I'm like, well, here is where we can implement the masculine to be supportive to the feminine, to our wants, our desires, our pleasures, our enjoyment of life. And it's time. It's time for, us to rewrite our relationship with the masculine in it that it can be supportive, that supportive system to our feminine, to the yin, to the restoration, to the pleasure, to the just, showing up as our authentic true being. And so I just love this. I love this. It's so inspiring to hear your perspective as blended together.
Likewise,
Yeah.
likewise. And before we wrap up, let's kind of finish, as you said, like it's a circle, right?
Mhm.
Let's finish with that circle
Yes.
and kind of like unwind, right? And so how do we
Mhm.
unwind at the end of the day? And one of the things that you
Mhm.
talked about that I love basically is priming, right?
Yeah,
It's in psychology that's called priming. Like me
yeah.
lighting that candle, playing that music before I go into like writing my content or whatever it is, it's
Mhm.
priming my brain to enter that state, right? And the
Mhm.
more you do it, the more your brain just enters that state because you turned on the candle, right? And so in the evening, what are those things that we can do? I love
Yeah.
like if you can't think of like a bubble bath or something like that, I love soaking my feet in Epsom salts. So
I
as
love
I'm just like
Yes.
that is such a wind down ritual, like with some nice jazz house music. I love that. Soaking
Mhm.
my feet and reading my books. And then,
Mhm.
that like nice cozy lights, cozy blankets, all of that. Maybe
Mhm.
a self pleasure thing if I need to relax, even more.
Mhm.
And off to sleep like a baby, right?
Yes, I love that. I'll finish the circle, the time clock. So, after we enter the small intestine, we go into the urinary bladder, and then the kidney time, which is the water time. And of course, the water time represents the yin. It's where we sort of start to decompress. And one of the things I find is to lower the amount of stimulation that we're getting.
Mhm.
Because think about it, like the daylight, sunlight is stimulating. Our phones are stimulating. And so we almost want to lower the amount of stimulation we're getting as nighttime comes, as night really comes and time gets later. And kidney time reminds me of when you go home, you nourish yourself, you get connected to like grounded, like your home, your sanctuary. And when you told me about priming, it reminded me of when people build rituals and they do ceremony. They're building the space. They're like
Mhm.
priming the space. And so that's a really beautiful time to prime the space because what we want to do is we want to shift that fight or flight, that stress, and turn off that light switch and turn on the rest, turn on the digest. We want to prime ourselves in our environment to remind us that, like, oh, yeah, I'm at home. I can relax my shoulders. I can get cozy. I can wear like my coziest PJs and I can read my book and I can take a moment to just to slow down. Um, as we get into 7 to 9 p.m., we enter into the pericardium time, which is the heart time. This is a time of pleasure. So, doing a self-pleasure ritual during this time, doing anything that sparks joy for you, whether it's art. I love playing music. I love playing guitar during this time. I love using my voice, vocalizing. Vocalizing is such a powerful way of moving energy through the body, whether it's just like humming, chanting, singing along to a song that you love. That is like one of the biggest things that I love during that time. It's just like really allowing that energy to move. Doing art, drawing, painting, watching even a really beautiful movie that you love, like, could be really beautiful during that time. I do always recommend too to people who are often it's difficult for them to turn off that light switch of fight or flight. I tell them, if you can, take a shower, make it a ritual, put in some essential oils, light some herbs, do a foot soak, do a hand soak, a
Absolutely.
steam, a full body steam. Like really use these different practices to sort of get your body to physiologically shift out of that fight or flight back into
Yeah.
rest and digest. I think that's another great thing is to have a nighttime ritual like that.
Yeah.
And then doing some slow yin practices. Like I like to sometimes do some like yin yoga, some qigong, some really light qigong, and like just connecting to the ground. Like that is so yin for me. It's just to be like lying flat on the ground is such a powerful practice to connect with the
Yeah.
coldness of the floor and all of those things.
Yeah.
And then that kind of brings us into nighttime, into sleeping, which is really important also for just regeneration, cell repair, clearing, getting us ready for the next day. And so sleep hygiene is also a really big thing, like making sure that we're lowering the amount of stimulation, drinking that sort of that tea. I love drinking like a chamomile or a peppermint that sort of helps my body to like calm down and get more relaxed. So there's different ways that we can
Yeah.
incorporate these rituals. Yeah.
Ooh, and other one that I love, so, like, soaking the feet, it's, like, such an easy thing to do, you're just
Yeah.
sitting anyway, so, like, just soak the
Right.
feet, it's, like, so easy, you don't have to do a whole draw a whole bubble bath or whatever.
Mhm.
The other 2 things that I always can rely on is putting something cold here on my chest because that
Mhm.
resets the nervous system, and that has actually helped me through some really stressful times in my life where I thought I was gonna burn out.
Mhm.
Because I had some issues in my house and it was like, "Oh my god, this is overwhelming." And so, just doing that every single day, putting something cold, like an ice pack on your chest, it
Mhm.
just relaxes you so much and actually allows
Amazing.
your nervous system to relax. The humming as
Mm.
well,
Mhm.
that's why chanting "Om" and, things like that, even if it's
Mhm.
just humming a song, it stimulates the nervous system, it relaxes the nervous system. That's why it works, like,
Mhm.
scientifically, right?
Yeah.
And kind of like another practice of breath work, the 4-7-8 breath or the 4-4-8 breath are my
Mhm.
go-tos to like really relax and reset the nervous
Mm.
system. So
Mhm.
I like if I really want to like unwind and relax, it's a whole mix of, just doing that soaking, putting that on my chest, and then as I'm like in bed, I'm doing the 4-7-8. That's my, or 4-4-4-8, and
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
just relaxes me. I love, playing like maybe the hung, if you know about that instrument, is beautiful,
Mhm.
or any other like there's other plenty of other sounds that kind of
Mhm.
put you in like a theta state.
Right.
You can use that as well. So it's like
Love that.
a lot.
You reminded me of, placing, like, a warm pack even on the stomach or, even bringing some light massage to, like, the belly, helping yourself to digest, like, the day and digest what you
Hmm.
ate for dinner and, like, really bringing some nourishment. I really recommend, like, self-touch. Like, self-touch can be really soothing practice with, like, one of your favorite oils or something like that. Something that I've been doing as well before going to sleep is I take some essential oils, whether it's eucalyptus or rosemary or lavender. I usually diffuse them like next to me when I'm in my bedroom, but I just take them in my hand and I just really take really deep inhales of the essential oils and that immediately gets me into like in my body in a different state. And
Yeah.
just something as simple as that can be a really powerful practice. Yeah.
We shared so much. Like there's
Yes.
and all of these like if you can like yeah, I mean, I think everyone here understands like how simple all of it is, right? Like
Mhm.
just put in that cold press, it doesn't take any time. I'm already laying around, or whatever,
Right.
scrolling, right? Like doing this
Mhm.
the soaking of the feet, or whatever, or the 5-minute breath. It's like all of these things are so easy to do, so easy to add into our
Mhm.
day to day, right? But they make a huge difference for our nervous system, right? And
Right.
more than anything, like I feel like the core of our conversation really is to understand your body, understand what it wants and listen to it. So the foundation of everything is really connecting with your body, listening to it when it wants to go to the bathroom. It's fascinating how many people ignore those signals, right? Suppress those signals. So if you're, that disconnected from your body, that's of course the starting point, right? But
Mhm.
the breath brings you into the body, the cacao brings you into the
Mhm.
body, right? All of these practices that kind of ground you and focus you inward are
Yeah.
the key to actually making all of those long-term changes,
Yeah.
allowing yourself to rest and relax and all of that, because it's just an
Mhm.
impulse from the nervous system, right? And if you can be
Mhm.
present with the impulse, if you can breathe into it, calm down the nervous system, it's going to stop wanting to go up and go, right? It's going to
Mhm.
start to be like, it's okay if I rest for a little bit. And then the mind follows, right? The body
Mhm.
leads, the mind follows. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the last thing I wanna say here is, even if we've had a really difficult day, like something happened at work, something happened in our day, and we're coming home pretty activated. Maybe there's some anger, maybe there's just a lot there. I know you're familiar with tapping, but just a really simple practice of like there's these points here. There's a kidney point that's here, right under our collarbone. So if you go under your collarbone in between, your first rib will be there, but it's right there next to your sternum. And if you just tap that point and you just really share honestly what's in your heart. Today was a really difficult day. I'm feeling a lot and I'm here now. I'm home. I'm safe. And you just really
and stay.
tap and you just allow yourself to say those words, to say what needs to be said and
Yes.
anchor into the now that you're home, you're safe, you're in your sanctuary. That could be a really supportive practice at moving some of the activated energy and
Yes.
beginning to kind of get you back into more calm, more anchoredness, more of that groundedness.
100%. EFT tapping has revolutionized my life and helped me release so much trauma and also the day to
Mm.
day emotions, especially as an emotional authority in human design.
Mhm.
EFT has been crucial for me. So, guys, you have so much on YouTube. Brad Yates is there and some other creators as well. Like, you can always look up like EFT tapping for anxiety, EFT tapping to wind down, or whatever the purpose is, right? For anger, fear, of this, of that, whatever, you can
Yeah.
find a lot of amazing tappings. And it's
Yep.
basically using the acupuncture points, right?
Yep.
And tapping those points. And this is scientifically proven, clinically proven to release and relax the nervous system and
Mhm.
help you, enter that perfect balance nervous system state.
Mm.
And
Beautiful.
just, get everything online, right?
So many
There-
tools, so many tools.
So
So
many
good.
tools. Thank you so much for
You're so
this
welcome.
absolutely wonderful conversation. Thank you, everyone who joined us. There's 45 of you almost. Thank you so much for being here with us. We're going to publish this, a replay of this, so you can always kind of tune in and go back and write down all of the little tools and start practicing one by one and trying them out, right? Don't try to like
Mhm.
cram everything and add everything into your day. Just try
Mhm.
one per day, add one little thing per day and see how you feel from all of that. And then, of
Mhm.
course, go follow Dr. Lynn.
Mm.
When are you doing your unblock
Life
the
Force.
flow?
Yes. So, Unblock Life Force is gonna be happening the beginning of Fire Horse season. I'm gonna be taking 10 people through 12 weeks of this deep transformation work where we're going to be unraveling the hustle and culture that's held in our system. So much of what we talked about here today, and so much about unblocking the life flow, right? Helping to release energetic blocks to feeling vital, to feeling confident, to feeling like we can receive. I'm going to be sharing an article soon about unarmoring the heart because so often we kind of create this protective mechanism around the heart. We're going to be doing that deep work in that container. So I'm so excited to
Awesome.
really help each person navigate burnout and illuminate what's there and activating our hearts in connection and in community. So I'm so excited for that. Yeah.
Beautiful, guys. If you're from my audience, go follow Dr. Lynn. And if you're from her audience, and if you're interested in human design and business and
Yes.
storytelling, coming over to my publications, go check out everything that's in there. And Lynn, thank you so much for this
Thank you.
conversation once again.
Yeah. Your work is so brilliant. And I'm just so honored to be here. And I just want to remind everyone,
Likewise.
be gentle, go slow, and be with the end. So thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye.